This is Father Andy from Holy Family, and I'm here for a conversation about family and faith with Erin Bright, who is a parishioner and who also is campus minister at DeMatha Catholic High School. And she's going to just share a few thoughts that she had for families at this time.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about finding beauty in this crisis. So before I start talking, I always encourage my students to take a second to focus themselves, right? It's really hard to receive God's word when we're distracted and unfocused. So let's just take a second to breathe in and breathe out. Remember that God, the creator of the universe, is with us, and let that imprint on you before we start to think about what God might be telling us or asking of us. So I was reminded earlier this week about how much I love jazz music, which might sound like a weird way to start, but bear with me. Anybody who knows me really well knows that music is central to who I am. It inspires me, it lifts me, it shapes who I am. But jazz music in particular is something special for me. It speaks to me in a way that nothing else does. I love it when the vocalists start using their voices as the instruments. I love it when the musicians can riff and create because they know the piece so well and it just sort of takes them in this other direction. I love all of that. And it is not just enough for me to say that I love jazz, it is a thing of beauty for me. It lifts my soul. It brings me joy, it brings me peace, and it reminds me of the goodness of God. And so really, jazz music brings me to God, albeit in a roundabout way. Bishop Barron, who many of you might know, he's the director of Word of Fire, he is an expert in evangelization, has talked quite extensively about beauty and its way of bringing about the faith, and it's sort of a gateway to faith. And I want to talk a little bit about what that looks like, especially during these uncertain days. So beauty doesn't have to be anything explicitly religious. I like jazz, and jazz certainly is not explicitly religious, but things of beauty, they elevate us, they touch our soul, and they point us towards a greater good. Beauty and appreciation of beauty, though, are not the same thing as things that are entertaining or amusing. So I'm sure that all of us are, finding that we have some extra time on our hands right now. Maybe unless you're a parent with small children, maybe you have less time on your hands right now. But a lot of us have been looking for ways to entertain ourselves. So Netflix has a ton of great shows right now. I know that Prime and Hulu are putting out all kinds of stuff. There were 2 really big video game releases last week, and everybody was so excited about that. That parents, maybe you have kids at home now, and you're trying to homeschool and find things for them to do while you're trying to work from home. I know also that we've had this beautiful weather, and people have been trying to utilize this beautiful weather going outside. Maybe you're like me. You're with my husband and I have been trying to work on some projects outside to just get some things done. The kids in my neighborhood have been, riding up and down the streets on skateboards and bikes. We are all trying to find ways to occupy our time right now. I'm not knocking any of that. Nothing in and of itself in that regard is evil or is wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. But that which entertains us is not the same as that which is beautiful. It will not bring us peace. It will not bring us close to God. Things that entertain us won't necessarily elevate our souls and lift our spirits. Entertainment a lot of times includes mindlessness, right? We're passively participating, and that's what we want. We don't want to have to think about anything. We want to just sort of escape. So I'm cautioning everyone as we are trying to figure out what to do trying to find ways to occupy our time to seek things of beauty in addition to things that are entertaining. So what do I mean by that? It's a little bit hard to define, but Bishop Erin notes that things of beauty are those that make us stop, look, and appreciate or marvel at them. So think of the written word and how it can move us and shape us. Think of scripture. Think of your favorite novel. Think of the art of athletics and how the body unites with the mind in such a perfect way to help us achieve physical success. I'm reminded of the movie Chariots of Fire, and there's a quote where that states, "God made me fast, and when I run, I feel his pleasure." We can find beauty in nature and see the intricate creation that God has given us. Certainly we find beauty in music. And it isn't enough to just enjoy the music, but to see all that goes into that piece of music, and then to let yourself sit with that and think about where those inspirations come from, that gift comes from. All of the ways that God allows us as his creations to thrive are examples of what's considered beautiful. So, how did I find beauty this week? I am a teacher, and as Father said, I'm a campus minister at DeMatha Catholic High School. So, I, like a lot of other people, have been feeling overwhelmed and stressed and very restless. These are uncertain times, and as a teacher, I've been teaching online classes, and as a campus minister, I've been rescheduling retreats and canceling service trips and trying to rearrange, reflections, but also trying to reach out to my students and provide them with emotional support. So it's been really, really challenging, and I have really been struggling with peace for the past few weeks. And my husband and I have really tried hard to stay close to God. We've continued, to pray. We've engaged in virtual Stations of the Cross. We've been watching the live streamed masses here at Holy Family, and it hasn't been enough. I have felt far from God. I have felt stressed and anxious. I was feeling discouraged. What can I do? I've been trying so hard. So I'm at my house the other day, and I'm cleaning and doing chores, and my music is playing, and all of a sudden this piece comes on, one of my favorite songs, and I just stopped. I stopped and started to listen, and I've heard this piece a million times. I know it by heart. The quiet piano prelude gives way to the piercing notes of Miles Davis's trumpet. I couldn't help but marvel at how creative and how unique that sound was. And I kept thinking, as I often do, I can't believe that God gives people this kind of talent, that this musicianship exists in our world. It leads to this kind of masterpiece that is Flamenco Sketches, which is one of my favorite jazz pieces. It's on Miles Davis's Kind of Blue album, which I highly recommend. But all of a sudden, as I'm listening to this piece I know so well, and thinking about everything that went into it, and thinking about the note progressions and sort of the flexibility of the piece, it's one of the more sort of loose structures on his album, I thought, this is the God that we have, who gives us this freedom to create, who gives us these beautiful things to enjoy. And all at once, I felt at peace, I felt my burdens eased, and my joy was magnified. And I believe that that's what beauty does for us. That God gives us these beautiful things to help draw him closer to us when sometimes our efforts become overwhelming. He gives us these gifts. So you might be sitting there thinking, okay, I have a lot going on. This sounds way too difficult, way too much. I've got kids at home, or I'm concerned about getting sick. Any of those things are completely legitimate, and I understand that. But I encourage you to look for beauty this week, not just for things that entertain or occupy time, but look for those instances of beauty. Take a minute to find something that wows you, that you marvel at, that we can appreciate, especially in the intricate ways that they are put together. And remember that those gifts are from God, and that there is still beauty and gloriousness in this world right now. And I hope and pray that all of you will find our loving God and marvel at him during this really difficult time.
Keep going.
That's...
I was just going to ask you a question, Erin.
Yeah.
You know, when you say about beauty, I had to close the door. You know, another way might be, you know, like I just wonder, you know, when I was young, I found peace being out in the woods near my house.
Yeah.
Or I found, like, there's a certain peace, like certain moments with my family. You know, I would drive out with my father, go on a drive through a rural area. It used to be rural, Loudoun County, and I remember driving along the road with him and being in a car with him and feeling at peace and all those kind of things. And I remember years ago I was teaching confirmation at that parish we were talking about in Arlington, and there was a young lady. They were 7th graders that had been confirmed at the end of their 7th grade, and she told me at the beginning of the year, I don't know how to pray. I've never known how to pray. And of course, there's like 15 kids in the class, and I thought it was commendable that she was honest enough to say this in front of her teacher.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, I usually wasn't that successful working with getting kids to connect with their faith, but I said to her, what makes you feel peaceful? I've used this in homilies before. And she says, shooting baskets.
Yeah.
She had 4 brothers, and they'd shoot baskets in the driveway in front of their house. And she just said, that's when I feel peaceful. So I said, the next time you're by yourself, I didn't think it would work if they're playing a full-out game. Next time you're by yourself shooting baskets, try talking to God. And she came in the next time we had class, and her eyes were like silver dollars, and she said, I prayed, I talked to God.
Yeah.
And there she was shooting baskets as, you know, dusk was descending upon her house in Arlington, Virginia, which is where I was living at the time. And she found God, and the whole rest of that year, she was animated in that class. And you know, so beauty, you know, what is it that makes us feel peaceful maybe too?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I'm saying. And I think that, again, we can make all these big efforts, you know, but if we're not intentional too, you know, I had to stop. I knew this piece of music, but I had to stop and just and listen to it and like let it sink into me a little bit.
Right.
And that had a big effect. I mean, I certainly don't do that every time I listen to music. I
Right.
sing along or I enjoy it. Becomes background noise. But some of it is intentional, right?
Yeah.
Finding those things that are inspiring, that we marvel at, that brings us the peace of God, that are in the everyday. And it might just take a little bit of intention, right? Thinking about that.
And do you think also being kind of real to yourself, like recognizing what is it that makes me feel peaceful?
Right.
Some people, they really connect with God on campouts.
Yep.
Some people connect with God when they're running.
Right.
Some people connect with God looking at art. Some people connect, you know, but I'm also thinking, you know, you mentioned how you and your husband Andrew have been working at it, trying to work on your faith life, trying to stay close to God. And I think maybe that's another piece of it as well, that it's not something that we just say, okay, God, do, you know, inspire me, but it's really in the midst of really working at it. And I don't want to say like it's a job, but putting some energy into, I'm just gonna try to find ways to pray. Remember, there's a guy named Matthew Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Australian, I think he's Australian,
I think so.
Catholic evangelist, and he said that they did a study of Catholics that say they have a good prayer life, and across the board, the ones that said they had a good prayer life said there were times in their life when they did not have a good prayer life, but that they kept trying different styles of prayer or different formats until something finally clicked. And I love music too, so sometimes I'll play instrumental music usually when I pray on my iPad, because that just helps me, you know.
Same. My husband and I were doing a reflection last night, and I turned on some background music, and I don't really know why, but it facilitates a more prayerful attitude in me and helps me to focus myself and really connect, and that's more for me than my husband. But I've learned that about myself, and some of that is, again, intention. I've taken the time to think about that and figure that out.
What touches your prayer.
Right.
And I think everybody's different. So at this time, that's one thing I think it's important for people to know. If you want to feel connected and have that sense of peace, it might be that you're the kind of person, you're more active. You might find God when you run. You might find God, as other people find God in nature. Some people find God through, more intellectual activities, reading. They want to read about a study on the gospel, and that stimulates their mind. And talked to someone the other day, and then that's not how I really engage in my prayer, but they'll read some academic teaching and about a gospel or a church teaching, and then they pray on it. And to them, they're using their mind, and that's how they really connect with God. So
I think this could be a challenging time, because we are kind of limited in what we can do, right? So we have all these restrictions, and that's hard. I'm feeling challenged by that. Yeah. But the fortunate thing is that there are so many different ways to try and find beauty through the arts, through what's creative, that I encourage everyone to try something.
Yeah.
Maybe something that especially they haven't done before. There are beautiful resources online right now, art, virtual tours through museums. Certainly music is available, but again, there's some intentionality. Instead of just trying to entertain and occupy our time, I encourage everyone to look for the beauty that brings us to God, because God is the ultimate epitome of that.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think that wraps us up. I want to thank Erin for coming in.